The hungry child gave his food to a stranger. Minutes later, his life changed forever. The sun hung low over the dusty road, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. People hurried past with shopping bags, phones pressed to their ears, minds busy with their own lives. In the middle of all that noise and movement sat a small boy named Eli, no more than 10 years old, his stomach aching with hunger. Eli hadn't eaten since the previous night. His mother was sick at home, and whatever little money they had was spent on medicine. Before leaving the house that morning, she had pressed a small paper-wrapped sandwich into his hands. "Eat this slowly," she had said softly. "It's all we have for today." Eli nodded. He promised her he would. Now, hours later, the sandwich felt heavier in his hands than it should have. The smell of bread made his mouth water. His legs felt weak, and his head felt light. Every step reminded him how hungry he was. He sat down on the edge of the sidewalk, carefully unwrapping the paper just a little, just enough to look. One bite, he thought. Just one bite. That's when he saw the men. Across the street, near a broken streetlight, an old man sat on the ground. His clothes were torn and dusty, his shoes barely holding together. His head was lowered, and his hands trembled slightly as he held an empty cup in front of him. The man looked exhausted, not just tired, but worn down by life itself. Eli watched as people passed by without even looking. Some stepped around him as if he were invisible. Others glanced for half a second and quickly looked away. Eli's fingers tightened around the sandwich. He looked down at it again. His stomach growled loudly, almost angrily, as if reminding him that this food was meant for him. Then he looked back at the old man. The man slowly raised his head. Their eyes met. There was no begging in the man's eyes. No anger either. Just quiet hunger, and deep sadness. Something moved inside Eli's chest. Without thinking too much, he stood up. Each step toward the old man felt heavy, as if his body was fighting his heart. When he reached him, Eli knelt down and gently held out the sandwich. "Sir," he said softly, "you can have this." The old man stared at the sandwich in disbelief. Then he looked at Eli's thin face, his tired eyes. "No, no," the man whispered. "You need it more than I do." Eli shook his head. "I'll be okay." That was a lie. But it was a kind one. The old man hesitated, then slowly took the sandwich. His hands shook as he unwrapped it fully. Tears filled his eyes as he took the first bite. "I haven't eaten since yesterday," the man said, his voice breaking. "Thank you, son." Eli smiled, even though his stomach burned with hunger. "You're welcome," he said. He stood up and walked away before the man could say anything else. As Eli continued down the road, his steps grew slower. His vision blurred slightly, and he had to stop and lean against a wall to steady himself. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I'll be okay," he whispered to himself. A few minutes later, a black car pulled up nearby. Eli didn't notice it at first. The car door opened, and a tall man in a neat suit stepped out. He looked around, then his eyes landed on Eli. "Hey, kid," the man called out gently. Eli turned, startled. He wasn't used to being noticed by people like that. "Yes?" he asked. "I saw what you did back there," the man said, pointing toward the old man across the street. Eli felt his cheeks grow warm. "I just shared my food." The man smiled, but there was something emotional behind it. "That man you helped," he said slowly, "is my father." Eli's eyes widened. "I've been looking for him all day," the man continued. "He suffers from memory problems. Sometimes he wanders off and refuses help. I turned away for just a few minutes and lost him." The man paused, swallowing hard. "When I found him," he said, "the first thing he told me was that a hungry child gave him food." Eli didn't know what to say. The man reached into the car and pulled out a bag. He handed it to Eli. "Please," he said. "Take this." Inside the bag was food. Real food. Warm food. More than Eli had seen in days. "I can't," Eli said quickly. "That's too much." The men crouched down so they were eye level. "Listen to me," he said gently. "You gave when you had nothing. Let me give back." Eli hesitated, then slowly took the bag. But the man wasn't done. He took out a card and placed it in Eli's hand. My name is Daniel, he said. I own a small company nearby. If your family ever needs help, call me. Eli stared at the card, his hands shaking. Thank you, he whispered. Daniel stood up and nodded. No, he said softly. Thank you. That evening, Eli returned home with the food. His mother stared at the bags in shock. Where did this come from? She asked, worried. Eli told her everything. She hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. You did the right thing, she said. I'm proud of you. The next day, Daniel visited their home. What he saw broke his heart. The small, empty house. The medicine bottles. The struggle. Within days, Daniel arranged medical help for Eli's mother. He helped her get proper treatment. He made sure they had food on the table. Weeks passed. Then months. Eli's mother recovered. Eli returned to school. Daniel kept his promise, helping quietly, never asking for anything in return. One afternoon, as Eli walked home from school, he passed the same street where it had all begun. The broken streetlight was still there. But Eli was different. He stopped for a moment, looking at the spot where the old man had once sat. He smiled. Because he had learned something important. Kindness doesn't need wealth. It doesn't need strength. It only needs a heart willing to give, even when it hurts. And sometimes, when you give everything you have, life gives you back more than you ever imagined.